Okay, so I did go with the 18mm eyes. The other ones are cute too, but I think these bigger eyes are just sort of like more cute. But you feel free to use the eyes that you think looks best. And one really great thing about assembling your piece sort of as you go is you get a more complete idea about what he's going to look like when he's finished, instead of the way I do a lot of my patterns, which is having a ball and you can't really tell, like, oh, is that going to look good on the head or not. So here we go, we have him. I've done 2 more rounds of decreases, so I'm down to 12 stitches. Just going to pull out my hook for showing you things. So we stuffed and then we did some crocheting, and if you just stopped here, the top of his head would be really flat. So I always like to, when I'm crocheting a piece closed, shove in a bit more stuffing to round out the top of his head. And if you put in too much, you could just pull a bit back out. So here we go, he has a nice little round top of his head. Oh, he could use a bit more, he could use a bit more. At this point, I think it's okay. You know, a bigger head is just cuter. So if you want to add more stuffing to the head, it just makes the head a little bigger, as long as you're not stretching the stitches. So the way I like to add more, because I just decided I wanted his head plumper, I shove my fingers into the middle and I make a hole. So that way you're not putting a lump right here. You're distributing all of this stuffing around and putting this into the middle, so that sort of plumps out the whole enterprise. There we go. Didn't he a cutie? Okay, so now I'm going to finish crocheting the top of my head, well, the top of his head, and I'm going to single crochet 2 together 6 times. So you'll notice as I'm crocheting, I'm slipping my finger in to the back, and that is to keep the stuffing away from the hook. So you don't want to catch the stuffing in the crochet hook, because that would pull, you'd end up pulling the stuff, oh, sorry, I'm blocking, I'll go like this. That would be pulling the stuffing through the fabric. This, it looked like there was some through the fabric, that was just some little extra fluff that got stuck on top. So here we go. So I'm going like this. Another trick that's really good to use if you're having trouble doing these final rounds without catching the stuffing is to cut a little white piece of felt and put in there, and that keeps the stuffing out of your way as you're finishing these last rounds. And they're just going to be awkward. That's how it is. Not a problem. You're not alone. I like to just rotate him around. I find one of the harder things about this method, which is attaching the pieces as you go, is that at the end it's just really awkward. You're trying to preserve the shape of the finished animal, so you're not trying to break his neck or anything like that, and so it's in your lap in a very bizarre shape. Which is a lot more difficult than if you crocheted all the pieces first and then we're assembling them. Okay, we're now to the last round, and the instructions are to go through the next and the fourth, 1, 2, 3, whoops, there we go, sorry, 1, 2, 3, fourth stitch, like this. Basically, just go across from each other. It's not really important that it's the 4th stitch, and the instructions say to single crochet them together. You can do that, and that looks fine. A sneaky little trick is to slip stitch them together. So I don't put that in the patterns just because introducing a new stitch just for one little time ends up being confusing, but I'll just show you how to do it now. So you wrap your yarn around and just pull through all of the loops. That's all 3 loops on the hook, okay? And then you would cut it nicely with scissors or rip it like that. Pull it closed. Bloop, and then you have a little knot, and to pull the knot through, I stick my hook in and I grab it like this, and I'll pull it through to the center, and I would snip that extra bit, and that makes the top of his head nice and flat. And there we have a beautiful dino.